So we are here in Europe at Demexco, and I'm just curious if you can give some insight into sort of the variances between the US versus Europe if we create that construct, right? The amount of dollars, how they're flowing, and what the spend looks like direct versus through programmatic platforms.
Well, I mean, I think in the US there's more of it flowing through programmatic platforms to begin with. Publishers have embraced it more quickly, so have advertisers. In some markets in Europe, that's the case too. The UK, definitely. France, to some extent. And it will continue to grow in Europe as well. Like I said, I think publishers are more careful about how they're engaging with the space in Europe. They've seen some of the lessons from the US. And of course, in the programmatic space, you need both. You need publishers to engage and you need the buy side to engage. It's a sort of ratcheting effect. One doesn't work without the other. And so the fact that publishers are being a little bit more careful about how to engage with the space, and so it's a buy side, means that it's not growing, hasn't grown as quickly as it did in the US to begin with. But it's grown in more considered ways. So it's being used very specifically for certain types of campaigns by certain types of publishers to great effect.
And what do you think the growth is going to look like in the next 24 months?
I think there'll be a lot more. Well, I mean, I think mobile is a big one. I think the problem in mobile from an inventory point of view looks very similar to the problem that display had, i.e. there's a lot of remnant inventory. I think the challenge there is actually getting clients and agencies to spend. Most clients and agencies spend on mobile in different ways to just display ads on mobile platforms, so the spend isn't really there to justify it yet. But I think mobile will be a very interesting one over the next year. I think video is the other one. Video, although it's not as inventory constrained, from an advertiser point of view, the idea of audience targeting, which is of course what we do, is something that they're extremely keen to do across video as much as they are across display and other places. So in the US we've just launched radio and outdoor. Again, starting with the audience is the way is what it is you're buying, and engaging with those audiences wherever they are. So video, radio, TV, outdoor, all these things create amazing opportunities to use data and technology to engage with audiences. So I think, the next 24 months, I think a lot of that will start to develop as well. And we're talking to some really cool companies that can help do that.
And overall, I've heard that, for example, in video, being able to deliver against audience guarantees and actually aggregate audiences is still a bit of a challenge. What sort of channel by channel, if you look at out of home, you look at video, you look at display, mobile, where are we in sort of the ability to deliver against an audience buy versus an impression-based buy?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, display obviously is the biggest one. You could argue search as well, obviously. That's a very audience-centric, it's always been a very audience-centric approach because it's what people are searching for. So search and display. I would say next after that is probably video, actually. Probably, the majority of our business in Europe now comes from video. Rather than display. So we do a lot of targeted video buying and audience buying on video platforms already today, despite of the inventory constraints. And then I think mobile has its own unique challenges, with regards to actually creating consistent audience segments across mobile platforms and taking audience segments we have from display and other platforms, or PCs and everything, and extrapolating those out across the mobile ecosystem is very difficult. So audience buying on mobile has some real challenges. And then, the next set is then the radios and the outdoors and everything else, which is, I think there's some great ideas. There's some really cool technologies we're starting to see that enable us to do that and enable people to do that. But to actually scale that, it requires a huge investment in the infrastructure as well. Like the screens in the case of outdoor and all that sort of thing. So I think that's a little bit further behind, but I think that's where it gets really interesting.